welcome to That Just Doesn't Make Sense, the Nature of Things. We're going to be talking about boxes today. So let us look at boxes. Now I know what you're thinking. What the heck is he talking about? Boxes are exactly what the name means. Holding, place things inside, store away, etc. I think you got the idea, but I am not talking about material things. I'm talking about you. Everyone has boxes that they put themselves into. And those boxes are in your personal conscious control, and some may be under subconscious control. The point is that they are your boxes. What is contained in those boxes are your daily life, your career, your love life, your personal life. Basically, the boxes represent you, and you are in complete control of what you have put into your boxes. So what am I getting at? The boxes you create are filled and emptied by you, and you alone, which is the way it should be. However, and this is the meat and potatoes of this episode, recognizing what is being put into your boxes by others, your spouse, family members, work associates, social media, government, news media, and so on. So what's the problem with that? For some, no problem. They are perfectly happy with that scenario. If they choose it based upon self-reflection and weighing of the pros and cons of it all, then it's fine. Then good for them. I'm happy for them. But if they did not come to that calmness through self-introspectiveness, then they are internally arguing with themselves constantly. Sooner or later, it will show itself. Look, I know what I'm talking about in this episode, and so far, probably it isn't making sense. So I'm going to share a real life experience as an example. I was 21 years old, recently out of the military and living in Texas. I met a woman and fell in love almost immediately. In fact, I asked her to marry me within 2 weeks of meeting her. I know. She was a student at a university there, and I was just getting started with construction. The year was 1984. Even though we were engaged now, I had to move back to Connecticut to start a new job in IT. She had not moved with me yet. She stayed in Texas to finish school. She never did finish school. We got married in 1985, and we officially moved to Connecticut as a married couple. Now, I need to explain what type of family she came from. A great family. I really do miss them, especially her dad. What a great mentor for business for me. Very religious, which meant that now I had to conform to that narrative. Human nature, belonging. Also, a box. So what is the problem with being put into that box? Is that not a good box to be put in? If you choose that box, then the answer is yes. But if you did not, and you were just going along with the flow, then sooner or later, the box will come crashing down on you. At first, yes, I enjoyed it immensely. After a few years, I got involved in the choir and then got onto the worship team, attended Bible studies, etc. But as time went on, I started realizing that my mind would not allow me to continue. And I started living a double life. I'll get in more on that double life in future episodes. So I had a decision to make. Keep talking myself into staying in an organization that I did not believe in, or keep living a lie just to keep those around me happy that I was doing all the so-called right things. Let me make it clear here. I believe in God, but I do not believe in organized religion. That is created by man, not God, which means ego, human nature. is involved, and when that occurs, it almost always leads to destruction. I tried to convince my wife that I could no longer live a lie regarding the church, and that I'm lying every time I step foot into that building. She asked me to explain more clearly, so I gave a specific example. The pastor of the church was a very nice man and a knowledgeable person. In other words, someone you could trust. He was pushing this nutritional diet plan that he was going through, but he was trying to do it through scripture. She was hooked. His name was Pastor Jeff. When I pointed it out to her and tried to use scripture as evidence, and she would not back down. Her ego would not let her. Human nature. It ultimately led to us getting a divorce. Now, of course, it was part of the reason. And as the podcast evolves, I will have another episode to discuss and the human nature that applies. Back to the story, though. So the example shows that I realized that I was not in a box of my own making per se. Yes, I let it happen, but my decision to let it happen was not based upon reflection. Should I stay in this box or not? I let my desire, human nature, for her outweigh the reasoning. At the timeline that this story took place, I could not identify as clearly as I can now, but my gut, human nature, told me something was not right. And because I am naturally an analytical person, I had to reason it out. So let us reflect on the message of this episode. There are boxes that life assigns to us before we know who we are as a person. Then there are boxes that we put ourselves into, which is what we should do. For example, what are my beliefs? What lines do I not cross? And so on. But also, you need to go back to the original boxes that were assigned to you from birth, to your realization that you are now in charge of your life, and get rid of the boxes that don't apply to you any longer. We also had 2 small children, and as a dad, I had responsibilities so that their mother and I were doing the least amount of damage and trauma as possible. So my ex-wife and I agreed that we would not talk about each other in front of the children and maintain the same rules in both houses. Once we did that, we filed it into the parents' box. And to our credit, we both upheld the agreement. We also made our agreement that our children would never step foot in a public school because of what I went through and learned about the system when I attended public school. We homeschooled for a while and then private. Her and I got along better after the divorce than we did when we were married because I wasn't living a lie anymore. She got the real me. I will get deep into public education as the podcast evolves. That will conclude this episode. Are there any boxes that you can identify in your own life that I can bring up in another episode? And if you like what you hear, subscribe, hit that notification bell so you don't miss another episode. Thank you, and we'll see you on the next one.